going to be in there. Right, I'm just checking. Can people still see my screen? Can I get some thumbs up? Just because my shadow window's gone. Yeah, so I am David Massey, and today I'm going to be talking about Microsoft 365 and task management. I run an organization called the Apprentice Store. We are a managed technology provider. We are aligned with Microsoft technology, and we support clients right across the UK. Here are a set of services that we offer. So we don't sell computer hardware and software. We do resell Microsoft 365 and we do WordPress development. But what's really common across our clients is we find that they have this technology stack in Microsoft 365, but they don't know what they're doing. And because we are a social enterprise, so we exist not to provide managed technology services, we exist to be able to create sustainable employment for young people who have challenges of entering the workforce. We're an Inverness-based business, and we support clients from the public, private, and third sector. And all of our services are delivered remotely. So it's great to be able to present this again, this training session again for Third Sector Lab. And thank you for coming today. If you can put any questions into the chat, I'll see if I can answer any questions as we go through, because I think it's quite good to be quite an interactive session. And they'll be doing quite a lot of product demonstration, so there's not much in the way of slides, but certainly if you please do ask questions, I'll see if I can answer them as we go along. There's a lot of information going to be shared. So just to confirm that as non-profits, you do get access to these entitlements free of charge from Microsoft. We do find a number of organizations that are paying for license plans that they don't have, that they do get access to through charity rates, or that they are paying full commercial in some situations. Microsoft did a price change on the 1st of February. So they've reduced their pricing as part of their US dollar price cadence that they do twice a year. And on the 1st of April, there's a price increase for people who are paying monthly for their subscriptions. That price change will come into effect on renewals. So if you're not getting to your charitable rates, use the links that are at the bottom of this to be able to find out. The people at Charity Digital are really, really good. The other thing that I need to highlight is, as part of Microsoft 365 shared responsibility model, it is your responsibility to back up your data. Microsoft do not back up your data. And for a lot of people, this is a surprise. So whilst 365 is a highly resilient platform, they don't back up the data. So if you get data deleted or corrupted, that will be duplicated across their platform. And they have very low service level agreements on the ability to recover it. So it's your responsibility to back it up. Microsoft recently have just added a 365 plan, but there's lots of technology products that are available to do that. So please do back up your data. Don't assume that it is backed up. Part of your shared responsibility is to ensure that you do manage the security, and this needs to be layered in the way that you deal with it. So again, that's available from Microsoft, and Charity Digital have got a number of technology partners that provide discounted services to be able to support your responsibility and managing your data and your infrastructure that you use with Microsoft 365. This is the Microsoft 365 periodic table, and this shows all of the technology that you get access to in Microsoft 365. A lot of people are surprised that this is the size of the stack, and it's presented in quite an intuitive way. So I'm just going to switch. So this is the website that's available. So if you do a search for periodic table for 365, you'll get access to this. It's not a Microsoft delivered and managed platform, but it is kept really up to date. And this gives you access to a lot of information. So today we're going to go and have a look at lists. So if you click on lists, what it will do is it'll tell you what the list functionality is, get you access to some training material to be able to understand how you could use it and leverage it within your organization. So it's a really good resource that allows you to be able to understand what Microsoft 365 is and how it works. And today we're going to be focusing in on these 5 elements, which are the ones that we've got where task management is involved. You'll notice we're not going to be having a look at a project for the web. So this used to be called Microsoft Project. And we're seeing quite a lot of convergence between planner and project. So we now have the ability of project tasks do start to come through to planner now. But that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So Microsoft Do. So this is a technology that Microsoft bought. I can't remember what it was called beforehand. But so this is a personal task manager that allows you to be able to get access and manage your tasks. So I'll swip over. So it's available as a desktop app, a mobile app, or you can access it in the browser. So this is a personal task manager. So all of the tasks that are available to you do come through into this one platform that you can see. So you've got the ability of having planned tasks. So these are things that have been given a specific date that have to start and finish. They'll appear in here. If there are any tasks that are assigned to you, so that's from anywhere. So you've assigned them to you, or somebody else has assigned a task for you to have a look at, they'll appear in here. It integrates with Outlook, and I'll show you that. And then we've got these things which are just tasks, which are things that you create and you're just managing on your own. You also have the ability of being able to create your own lists, which you can then start grouping tasks under. And what's really powerful about this is the ability to be able to say that I want to focus this on today. So we can take a set of tasks that we're going to bring through to today, and we've now got this focused task list. I find this really useful to be able to sit at the start of the day and plan my jobs for the day, the things I didn't get completed from yesterday, bring them through today, plan my jobs, and I can just go through and complete them, and they get closed out. So I've got the jobs and I can stay focused around that. So these can be tasks that come from all over the place. You get the ability to be able to manage those. I said that this is available and integrates. So this is kind of where we start showing some of the integration. So in Outlook, we have access to Do. And when we go into To Do, we get the same view. And if we go back to email, and we can highlight something, if we flag this email, and if I go here and say that I want to set it to be done on the 24th at 4 a.m. for some peculiar reason. All right, so these things now come through here. So we can see that we've got 2 flagged emails. So the flag email that I've put in, but I've also got the one that I've indicated needs to be done. And we can see that we've got the date and time that's been set. So this integration is directly available from Outlook into To Do, and allows you to be able to prioritize and manage your tasks from one place. And you've got the ability of controlling where those tasks come in. We have the ability of putting reminders into the system, so you can have things that don't have dates and you can just do reminders. You have the ability of, so we're going to go back to do, and we want to create a task. So you've got the ability of being able to create, so you want to book a holiday, you can say it's next week, but you might also want it to be monthly, and you want reminders to be coming up. So you've got the ability of doing all of the things, and they appear in here, but they also appear in your Outlook calendar. They appear and pop up in your Outlook reminders because they're just Outlook tasks, and it's just bringing that view together. So it makes it much, much easier to be able to manage the tasks that you want to be able to, that you are creating and that you want to be able to manage the way in which they are being done. You've got the ability of viewing it in a few different ways. So the list is the ones that we tend to see them at, but we'll come and look at the grids and buckets in some of the other methods. So you can see that we've got a set of attributes over here that allow us to be able to control. We can have sort of sub-steps to these that allow us to be able to say, well, we've got a task, but then that task might have multiple individual items that need to be completed as part of the setup. So it's not just necessarily one task. You can have multiple tasks, but these are sub-items from this. These don't appear as individual tasks in your task plan. It's only the top one, but these can be steps that you might want to do. So this is, you want to organize a meeting, so you make a phone call, you provisionally book something, you agree something, you have to book a facility. Could be those individual steps that you have within there. You've got ability of attaching files, got ability of attaching, putting product categories in. So these are not really good. You can change the labels, you can change the colors, but they're not very good at managing things. There are better things available in Planner for doing it. But this to do is about you managing your tasks for you to be assigned to. So that's the to-do app. And as I said, Robin will share the notes, and it's the icons down here are indicating where you're available. So this is available with a desktop app that you can install. So I have it installed, so it's available. So you can go to Microsoft Store. It's a free download, and you can get access to that. It's available in the web, but it's also available on the mobile, which is why I find it's really, really useful to use to do. It's a convenient way to do your planning. Planner. So this is the tool that brings it all together from a task management point. So if we go and have a look at Planner. So Planner's available there's two guises of it. There's Planner as a standalone application, and there's Planner that's embedded inside Teams. So here we'll focus on just Planner as a standalone. So this is you as an individual has the ability to be able to create a plan, and you can have as many plans as you want. So it allows you to be able to have multiple tasks and group them together under one particular project. It also allows you to be able to delegate those tasks to other people, and you have the ability of being able to manage them using boards. So it's to do is your tasks and they're for you. With Planner, you are able to create a project board and then start delegating those tasks to other people. But it gives you a bit more flexibility in the categories that we get within to do. So we have these things called plans, and we can create plans. So it does come with some pre-built templates. So if we take a project management plan, we've got some information about it, and we can create the template. So it will create one, but you can create these from blank. It just gives you a predefined template. But what the template gives you are these boards. So we have a plan, and then we have a board. So each plan has one board and only one board. And on that plan, on that board, we will have buckets. So these columns, which have got initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, all right, closing. And then you can see we've got the ability of adding more buckets. So we can, we can bring in scoping, and we say, well, actually, we want that to be further over here. And then the idea of the buckets is that we take a job and a task and we move it across the buckets to show progression of that project is one way of doing it. I've seen people use buckets to designate it to teams or who's tracking it. But the normal way of using buckets is the tasks go sideways, and when they get to the other end, that they're then finished. So when we now have a look at one of these tasks, we see that we've got a lot more options than we get access to inside To Do, because now the expectation is that we're going to be assigning it to somebody, so we can assign it to somebody inside the organization. So this is using Microsoft 365, the Active Directory. So these are your people, but you can also put in an email address of somebody external to your organization. We've got the ability of having labels. Notice that we can now edit them. So we can now change the label. We can't change the color, but we can change the label that's used on. So therefore we can start putting labels into them to make them more to do with the way that we want to work. We've got the ability of seeing which bucket we can edit it. We've got the status of whether it started or not. We've got the ability of putting priority. We can put start dates and end dates on them. And that's really important to be able to look at when things are scheduled, because you can look at it in that time. Is it a repeating task? And notes. And here we've got the checklist. So these are the items. So these are the discrete items that we've got. And we've still got the ability of being able to add attachments. So it gives us a lot more functionality than we get within To Do, because if we're now getting the idea of we can manage and delegate tasks. So these plans in Planner are your plans, and you are deemed to be the manager of these plans, and you delegate tasks to other people, but you are managing them. So they can see, and the way that their tasks will be shown up to them is they will appear in their To Do tasks that are being assigned to them. If you have got items within your schedule, tasks which have got a start date and end date, they will be shown on this planner to be able to, so you can see when things have been scheduled, who's on there. So it makes it easier to be able to look at it in that way. It does not give you the ability of being able to see it as a Gantt chart. Planner comes in two versions. There's the standard version and the premium version. The premium version gives you a Gantt chart view. The premium version, so here is the functionality difference between the different views. But the big reasons why people use premium is because they want to see the Gantt chart, or they want dependent tasks. So it's these two things. That they want dependencies, so you can have one task that's depending on another, and you want to be able to milestones, and that's because you want to do critical path analysis. All right, so we're getting more into project management, but Planner, even in premium, doesn't give you resource leveling and resource utilization information. You need to be looking at project for the web for that. So Planner gives you the ability of being able to deal with this, but the important thing here is it's you as an individual owns the plan, and you delegate tasks to other people. You're getting all the information that comes back to you. And that's really important from a data governance point, because if the user leaves the organization and their Microsoft account is deleted, because all of this data is stored inside their OneDrive and their mailbox, as that user is deleted, all of that information goes. So it's really important that if you're using Planner and it's for managing things within the organization rather than for you as an individual, that you do consider the data life of that. And you might want to start looking at using Planner for teams, because the data then stays within the team rather than being by the person. There's no limit on the number of plans that you can have. There's pretty much no limit on the number of activities or tasks that you can have on each individual plan. It's just that point around making sure that that from a data point that you are backing up the data. You can recover the data if that user leaves the organization. But the way of addressing it is to be using Planner inside Teams. Just making sure I've covered everything that's on there. All right. But yeah, so the big thing with reporting. So one of the things that you get within Planner is the ability to be able to see how many tasks, what stage they're at. So you get some high level reporting is available to you within this. And because Planner is heavily integrated with Power Automate, you can then fire off emails and other activities based upon data that's changed. So we've had examples of people who receive emails and then it creates Planner tasks. And we've had situations where, based upon the status changes of things within the planners, that they then communicate email out the way. Okay, I've got questions there. Planner link to an individual can view it. Right. So I think I'll come about Planner for Teams. If the plan is already being created by an individual, Dawn, that it's not easy to be able to move those tasks. So you can move the tasks from one plan to another plan. It's not easy to do, but it certainly is possible. Has anybody got questions about plan or to do? So as I said, to do is about you managing your tasks, and you can create tasks in there. Planner is you're managing stuff and you want to delegate, and then we'll come on to Teams. Okay, so we'll come back to Teams in a bit. So I've not covered Planner and Teams just yet, Emma. Okay. So when we start looking at Teams, it works slightly differently. So in this mode, the plan, so everything has access to it. So when you create so in Teams, when you create a team, the team has the ability of having one or more plans. Every channel has the ability of having one or more plans. And the beauty of doing it inside Teams, the permission matrix that you have for your channels and teams is applied to the plan. So in this situation, if you create a plan and you and then all the people who have access to the channel that plan is on, they can see the plan. It doesn't mean that they can manage it. It just means that they can see it, and it's based upon the permission matrix as to what they can do with it. But they can see it, and the reason why that works is because the data is now stored inside the team's mailbox and the SharePoint site that's associated with the team. So therefore, the person who created it doesn't own it. It's the team that owns it. So therefore, the data will continue past the life of that licensed user. Excuse me. So it addresses that issue. But every channel that you have has the ability of being able to have a plan, and you have the ability of being able to create additional plans. And again, there's no limit to how many that you can have within there. So there's nothing that you need to do differently within the within Teams. Just simply the fact that you have created a team and you have created a channel, you can create a plan. All right. So I've now created a plan in this channel, and I've got the ability of, and therefore everybody within the organization that has access to it will do it. So here, when we're doing the assignments, these are people who have access to the channel or who have access to the team based upon the security matrix are available to you. And because we're in Teams, there is a change in the way in which some of the functionality works. So in the way that we went from a task that was in to do, when we started using Planner, we now had access to this information and, more importantly, assignment. Now we're in the situation where there are multiple people who have access to this. We now have the ability of having comments, and we have the ability of having this history of the comments. So we can have these checklists, but what we find really useful about the comments is that we can say that I made a phone call and this is the information, and we've now got that information is available on that individual task, that everybody who has access to the channel, the plan through the Teams integration now has access to all of this information. So we've now started to be able to share the information. And the beauty of this reduces the volume of emails that need to go back and forward. We've got the comments are directly associated with that individual task that's there. So it's easier for people to be able to get access to that data. So it just helps to ease the overall management. And the important piece is that all that information from Planner comes back into here. So, so as you as an individual, you've got all of these places where these plans are being created by the managers and they're assigning these tasks to you. You don't have to go and find where all of these things are. You just come to do, and you will see the jobs that you need to get done, and you can plan your day from to do. So hopefully you can see that between what you can do within Outlook and To Do to manage your own tasks, you can create your own plans to be able to help you to manage the way that you work. You can delegate those tasks to other people, but you're staying in control as the manager of those plans. And then within Teams, you can create the plan, share the plan, everybody can see all of that, and you can keep the data as close as possible to the tasks. Still do the delegation, and you've got security and access controls within that. But it means that as an individual, you can still manage all of your tasks, regardless of where they've come from. And remember that with Planner, you can invite people from outside your organization as guests, providing your sharing policies allow you to do this. And so you can delegate tasks to people who are not inside your organization, and they don't need to be using Microsoft 365. They will get an email and they have the ability to be able to manage it. They don't need Microsoft licenses. But you can stay in control and you can delegate. So we've got same charting to be able to have access to things, and we've got the same sort of set of reporting. So you can see there's some questions in here. So, right, so VJ, the question about the Project Online. So there is integration. So if Project Online have got delegated tasks, we are expecting those delegated tasks to start coming through to do. And we're expecting a light version of Project Online, which is kind of where we're at with Planner Premium. So it's getting there, but they're not joined up. So Emma, if you can just put a thumbs up or ask a question as to whether you understand about where you do things with inside Teams. So it is just come up here and you want to add a plan. So private channels can have Planner. You have the ability to be able to do that. But obviously, because it's a private channel, you can't you can't share outside of the channel. So you can do, you can't link from one plan to another plan. You can you can put links to the tasks that are in other ones, but you can't merge them together. You can add a plan that already exists somewhere else, but you can't merge tasks. Yeah, okay, so that's good. But yeah, so I think it's Planner does behave differently inside Teams because it provides that comment information but it picks up the security permissions that you get from that. All right. And there was a question I'd seen from somebody about Power BI. So all of the data that's available inside Plan and To Do are exposed to Power BI, and you can use the Graph API in order to be able to access that data and report on it. You can, I think the question about moving plans. So one of the things that you've got the ability of doing is when you create a plan, you could see that the option was, there was an option there to be able to add an existing plan. So if it's a plan that's it's one of your plans, you can add a plan that you've already got access to. So these are your plans rather than team plans. So this moves a planner plan to be a team's plan. So you can add them that way. You can't, I'm not aware that you can move a plan from one channel to another one. Right, so that's Planner. But again, with Power Automate, with Planner as a whole, is you've got the ability of being able to drive automation. And what we tend to see is the email. You'll get daily reminders about tasks that you've not completed, and you'll do that as the person who they're assigned to. But equally, as the person who creates the plan, if people are not doing those tasks, you do get reminders that come in through Teams and through Outlook. But you can provide through Automate, you can do a lot more. Loop. So this is a new technology that is really beginning to get to the point where it changes quite dramatically what's possible. If you use OneNote, there's a lot of similarity with OneNote. When I started programming back in the 90s, there was a technology called OLE, Object Linking Embedment. And this was proclaimed as being the option that we would consume individual components. So you wanted a chart, you wanted a table, you wanted a picture, you would embed that into a document. So you would just graph things together. And this is what I see Loop is like. So I think it's quite a good replacement for OneNote, and I'll hopefully try and explain some of that. So Loop is available to every licensed person, and it's available within the core licensed functionality that's there. And it's had a big upgrade in the last couple of months, which I think makes it a bit more of an attractive option to work with. So if you use OneNote, you're used to the idea of having a workbook, and that workbook has got sections and pages. And you then scratchpad information on. So you put web page URLs. If you've got a pen-enabled device, you can draw on that. You can write notes, and you use a bit of a scratchpad, and you can put checkbox activities that can be exposed to Outlook. But you can share a OneNote notebook, but you have to share a whole page, or you have to share a whole workbook. So it's not as component based. But the other problem with it is that piece of collaboration, and we've got information going in lots of places. And what's the idea of Loop is we have this workspace, which is where we collect information. And then we have pages. And your pages are available, and we have the ability of being able to create them as subpages in the way that we are used to doing with OneNote. So we have a blank page. We can give it a page title, and we've got the ability of doing sort of formatting, and we can do icons that can display it over here. But we also have all these things called these loop components. So we've got the ability of doing just straight text content, and we've got some smart things are available. But we also have this thing called a task list. So we can create a task list, and this is a task list like we would create with To Do and with Planner, and that we can give it a name, and we can assign this to Adele, who I'm logged in on, and we've got a due date, and we want it to appear in a to-do bucket. And that will be fed through to Adele's to-do list. And she can manage that task in the way that she wants to do it. But the real power of this is the ability to be able to create this thing called a loop component. So now we've got the ability of having this component, and we can put it anywhere we want. So we can say that we want to give access to it, so we can share this component. So this is on my loop workspace, and I want to give somebody access to just this piece of the component. It's not the whole page, it's not the whole workbook, it's just this one component. I also have the ability of being able to copy this component. It'll get there eventually. And so I've now got a copy of that component. I can now come into Outlook, or I can go into Teams chat. And I want to compose. And now I put that component inside this email, and I can send that email to everybody. And those people can then take that component and put it into a Word document, into a spreadsheet, or into your Teams chat, or put it into their loop workspace. But the beauty is that wherever that component exists, we're always collaborating on my original piece. So we're used to doing this with a Word document that we can send a link and people can co-author that. Now we're going down to discrete components, and a component can be made of multiple elements. But specifically looking at tasks, where this is really good is in a Teams meeting. In that Teams meeting, if you create a loop component, because we see this across lots of applications, so if we go into Word, you'll see that you'll have the ability of being able to embed a component into here. So you can create a component, and he says, where is it? Not there, not there. Where is it gone? Typical, isn't it? You sit and you do a demonstration, and then functionality is not there. But you have the ability of, you'll see this input, this loop input component. But where it's really powerful is in Teams. You got a Teams meeting. If you bring up the Teams note, you've then got the ability of embedding a component. If you put into that Teams, so you put your Teams notes in there, but you put the actions. So therefore, in that meeting invitation everybody attended are all the outcome actions, and they can be emailed those, they can edit those, but they're always editing them on that one component. All right. So what Loop allows us to be able to do, and it used to be up until a couple of months ago, we could only do this internally within our tenant. It's now been enabled that we can then enable this functionality outside. So we can now collaborate, not on a whole document, but we can collaborate on a piece of a document. Or we can start sharing some of the functionality that we have access to inside Loop with other people. And it's got a really powerful thing. You just type the backslash and you've got access to things. And there are complete Kanban boards. So this is like a planner board, but these tasks are not tasks. They're just loop components, and they are held within here. So these will not appear on anybody's to-do list. All right, so it's an interesting area. Still trying to understand what it works, because I've not looked at it, because we could only use it internally, and so much of our collaboration is done with people outside. But still trying to understand what it can do. So have a look at it. It does work. The one area I find it's immensely useful is meeting notes and actions from meetings, to be able to have those on the meeting, put them into email, send them out, and then everybody has the ability of edit them. You can edit the email, and you're always updating those tasks. Right, so we've got a question here. 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 Right, so we've Okay, or the joys of licensing. So Emma, drop me an email if you've got any questions. I'm more than happy to have a sort of one-to-one here about Microsoft licensing plans, and just make sure that you're on the right one. I was chatting to a charity yesterday that are using their 10 premium licenses, but then they're buying basic licenses because they didn't know they have it. But I'll put my email details in so you can contact me. The task is complete on someone's personal. Yes. So if it's on somebody's, to do and it's come from a component on somebody else that somebody else has created, it is the same item. So when you're completing tasks in to do, you are completing it wherever the task comes from, whether that's in to do, planner, or from a Loop component. So Copilot can deal with that. You'd have to use some Power Automate. So this is the idea of using Copilot in the note taker. So when those notes are taken, they're automatically attached to the calendar. If you wanted those to be put into a Loop component, yes, Power Automate would allow you to do that. Brilliant summary, Emma. Yeah, to do is where you organize all of your personal tasks. Planner, there's two versions of it. So there's Planner for you to do personally, so you delegate, but Planner inside Teams allows you to be able to do team-based planning of that. And Loop it's a digital scratch board, but it does have this powerful component piece which allows you to be able to embed them in other places. And it doesn't have to be within Loop. Can you put all you? So yes, you can import all OneNote into Loop. There are facilities to be able to do that. You will lose some layout, but you certainly can import OneNote into Loop. Any more questions about Loop? Because it's, have a play with it. Everybody has access to it. It's available inside the waffle of the applications that you have access to, but it's lining up to be an interesting option, and the fact that it's now able to work outside the organization, I think makes it worthwhile investing some time. So within the presentation you'll get shared some of the key things that are available, but I said it's just OneNote, but it has a lot more power because of these components that are available. And is Loop in Teams? Loop components, Christine, are available inside Teams. So it's, so if you go to Teams, so you've got Loops available. So you can add it as a Teams app. So it becomes that place, but it exposes itself in lots of the 365 applications as being able to embed components into them, and every component you create is available inside your component list. Anything else about Loop, or any questions about Planner before I go on to a little used feature that's inside 365? Thanks. Right. Okay. Right. So lists. So lists is probably one of the least used but most beneficial applications that's available inside 365. If you were asked to track something, I would suggest that most people will go to Microsoft Excel. So, or if you've got to register for something, you go to Microsoft Excel. So if you take that piece of, you're organizing a set of, and you create a set of tasks, and you want to know the progression of those tasks, that you would go into Excel, you would create some columns, you would put in your labels, and then you would put the filter on to reduce things down. You might use a bit of color to be able to indicate the different statuses. So lists are a great way of addressing some of the problems that we see with Excel. So these spreadsheets become very big They're easy to corrupt because somebody puts some data in the wrong cell. They sometimes get deleted. Somebody messes up the formulas, and the fact is these then become of no use, and you're then having to roll back to an old version. So using file version history or your data backup to go to an older version of the file, but you've lost something. So with lists, you get that ability to be able to add and control what those columns are. And you get 15 data types rather than Excel where we've got 4. You get granularity because you've got each of them is a record. So you're not going to corrupt the whole thing. You're only going to corrupt one if somebody's going to do it, but you have permissions as to what people can do. They've got pre-built forms that allow you to be able to to design and say, so therefore you can get consistency in the data entry. But more importantly, you can do automation with lists so that as the data changes, so as a new record gets created, you can then drive automation. These are things that are really, really hard to do inside Microsoft Excel. And when we start looking at it for task management, it does offer some functionality that's of benefit, but it does not offer certain things. So it doesn't have any pre-built reporting. It doesn't integrate with Microsoft To Do, but it does allow us to be able to support task dependencies that we can only get with Planner in the premium plans. All right, but it's available to everybody, and it's a SharePoint technology. So I'll just flip over to this and show you one of the things. So lists, and I'll show you a pre-built item so that's available. So we want to create an issue tracker, and I'll just take all the defaults so you can kind of see what's going on. So this allows us to be able to create something which is akin to a help desk. So a problem's logged and we want to track it. So it's a task. So I've not written a line of code, instantly produced something. And now I've got the ability to be able to provide some information. I've got some pre-built, and I've got the ability of controlling what these labels are. I can do assignments to people, but remember that these are not going to appear on people's to-do lists because they're not integrated with that side of task management. Related issue, we've got task dependency, and we can do file attachment. All right, but we haven't got a due by date. All right, so here we've got the ability of being able to create a form. All right, so we've got the ability of designing what this form looks like. We can change the sequence of the things. We can add fields. So we want to be able to put it in, in a date. So it's a date time. We want time included, and it's a required field. So we can't add a task without this field being defined. So we've got the ability of being able to design these forms, and now my new field is there. So you've got the ability of building these things, and we've got lots of different data types, but it's the fact that we can't corrupt the whole sheet. We've got these predefined forms. We've got the ability of controlling permissions and who can do what. We've got the ability of being able to drive automation, allows us to be able to deal with things, but we don't get reporting. But we get the ability of looking at the attributes. So if we, right, so it's just the piece of, it allows us to do task management, but it does not integrate within the to-do planner ecosystem. But it does give us a lot more flexibility because we can control the fields. Within Planner, we had the fields that were added because we're in Planner for Teams. Planner gives us more than we get with generic tasks in the way of activities. So this does allow us to have a lot more control, but it's still a no-code solution. but the big issue, it does not integrate with the to-do. So therefore it is a completely separate way of working. But it does allow you to do task management without needing to look at Planner Premium. And we can create things like Kanban boards by having, the buckets in and labeling it, and we can have, create multiple views that are filtering it based upon on those categories. So we've got a lot more control over it, but it doesn't integrate with the other functionality that I was talking about with To-Do and Planner. So, we've got any questions about this? Yes, Paul. Lists are the same as SharePoint custom lists. So this is a SharePoint functionality. It was exposed as a standalone application about 4 years ago. Yes, Steve. Obviously, you're liking Power BI, and it definitely will integrate with this. So Power BI can query SharePoint resources. This is information that's available through that using the Graph API, so you can have access to all of the data that's in there. So yes, Chris, I think one of the things that we find a lot of people doing is when they learn about lists that they've got their their Excel-based trackers, that there is the ability of importing or creating a new list by importing a spreadsheet, but subject to what's in that spreadsheet, you may lose some functionality. So you have to think about what is appropriate to come through. And one of the beauties of this is you can easily export the data to Excel. So you can, if you want to do some analysis of it using Excel, and you can see there the ability of going straight to Power BI. It gives you an endpoint to connect to. Yes, Paul, there is the ability of providing conditional formatting. It's not as rich as you get in Excel, but it certainly does support that. So this is the ability of, based upon the data attributes, that you change the colors of things. Joe, your question about loop is if it's a loop component and you share it, it's how many components. So you can create a loop component from multiple parts of what's on your workspace. But yes, when you've shared it, they can only edit the things that are being shared with them. They don't have access to all of the elements that are on there. So that is the end of my talk. So if anybody's gotten it, so I think it would be if Robin, if you want to stop the recording, and then we can be a bit more free around about any questions that people want, and people can come off mic.